Greetings, my fellow lovers of Chinese tea, and welcome to this brand new YouTube channel all about Chinese tea and Gong Fu tea. My name is Mike. Thank you so much for joining me today on our very first episode. Today also happens to be Chinese Lunar New Year, so Gong Xi Fa Chai, welcome. Happy New Year to everyone. Much health, wealth, and prosperity in your new year. The big question, if you're watching right now, that you probably have is, why would I start this YouTube channel? There's already other YouTube channels out there about Chinese tea in English. So what do I have to bring to the game? What can I contribute? So the truth is, I am not a Chinese tea master. I'll be straight up about that right from the get-go. I am not a Chinese tea master. I am just someone who studied Chinese tea for a while and has a true passion and sincere love of Chinese tea. And I feel like I have enough knowledge that I can share with other people, especially the English-speaking world. Just a little bit of background about myself. I started drinking Chinese tea back when I lived in New York City, back around 2008. My very first experience with real, honest-to-goodness Chinese tea prepared in a Gong Fu way. I actually contacted Michael Wong, who ran the Tea Gallery back then, one of New York City's famed tea shops from back in the day, and signed up for a private tasting. Basically, I wanted to take my tea knowledge to the next level, and I ended up having a tasting with his wife Winnie and their friend Day. And that day, I think I tried a couple of Phoenix Oolongs and a couple of Yanchas, a couple of Wuyi Oolongs, and it blew me away. It changed my life. Since that day, I've just been trying to learn as much as I can, learning more and more. And basically, I was incredibly lucky that Michael and some other people in New York that are top Chinese tea people in the country were kind enough to kind of take me under their wing and become friends of mine and teach me a whole lot about the culture and about Chinese tea and about the history and all those things. So I feel in a way a little bit of a responsibility because all I've been given by those very generous people, I want to try to give back a little bit of knowledge as well. However, like I said, I'm not a master. I consider myself a humble student of tea, humble Chinese Gong Fu tea practitioner, but I am not a master. So another thing I would like to do with this channel is I would actually like to have some interviews with those friends of mine and some other people that might be in the Chinese tea business, or other people that have just been drinking Chinese tea for most of their life, who have so much more knowledge than I do. I would love to have some interviews with them and bring their knowledge more into the English-speaking world, because they have so much to share as well. So going back to myself, like I said, studied Chinese tea in New York for quite a number of years. While there in New York, we started this little group we called the New York City Gong Fu Tea Club. Wasn't really official or anything like that, but you know, just some of the hard hitters of the New York Chinese tea scene that we'd get together and have some marathon tea sessions that would go until 2 in the morning and all sorts of crazy stuff like that in our younger days. So that was lots of fun then. I ended up moving to Maui and starting my own small tea business there, kind of on the side, called the Wandering Tea House. I would offer private Chinese tea tastings in lots of settings around Maui, Hawaii. I ended up working to develop a tea history tour at a local tea farm there in Maui. So that was kind of my venture into the tea world a little bit myself. And now I'm back living in the mainland. I'm living in Maine, and it is time to take this to YouTube, take it to the digital world, and try to share some of my tea knowledge and connect people to the world of Chinese tea. I feel like there's a lot of misinformation out there. It's for someone who speaks English and doesn't speak Chinese, which I do not speak Chinese, I'm sad to say. You know, sometimes it's hard to get the right information when you're searching on the internet or other places. So, you know, even though there's really knowledgeable people out there with YouTube channels already, I feel like there's still a niche for me to bring my knowledge and my friends' knowledge to the digital realm, and hopefully, hopefully people will get some enjoyment out of it and learn some cool stuff. That is my plan for the channel as we move forward, but as everything, it's all organic, it's all a conversation. So, anytime you want to, put some comments down there. Tell me what you want to learn about. Tell me what you want to hear about. Tell me what you're interested in, and we can work with that and go from there. We're going to let this whole thing develop organically instead of trying to bulldoze it into any one corner. So that is basically my story in the Chinese tea world, and that is what I hope to bring. And thank you so much for joining me. All right, so today, one thing that I don't want to do in this channel as well is have Chinese play-by-play tastings. There's other people out there on YouTube that do that review teas and do tea reviews, and they do play-by-play and fusion by fusion, and those are awesome. I appreciate those guys, but I'm not here to do that. I want to keep it more skills-based and skills-focused. But that being said, I had an interesting discovery over my birthday weekend that just passed. Because of the pandemic, I have not set foot inside an antique shop in over a year. And finally, I was in rural Maine on a little birthday getaway, and my wife and I passed a antique shop up there, and just happened to pop in because it seemed like there's no customers there. It was a snowy day, thought it'd be safe, and I found some treasure. What did I find? Believe it or not, I found some very old Wuyi Oolong tea from the Yixing company of Hong Kong. I was shocked when I walked into that antique store, and there was, 50 different antique vendors and stalls all around, and I saw a bunch of tea tins, and I found these guys sitting in the corner, stacked on top of each other. I didn't know how old they were when I bought them. I just knew they looked pretty old, and to my surprise, they are both 100% full with Oolong tea, with Yancha from the Wuyi mountains. So I was shocked, and needless to say, I bought them right away. Since then, I've done a little research, and it seems like people are saying that these are anywhere between as early as 1930s all the way up to maybe 1950s or 60s. But either way, we're now talking about tea that is anywhere from 60 to 90 years old. So even though I'm not into this thing normally, we're going to do a little tea tasting video today, and we're going to drink tea that is 60 to 90 years old because it's such a special and rare treat. I've never drank these before. I don't know what to expect. We're going to find out together. So why don't you come on in this adventure, and I'm going to show you how I drink tea, mystery tea found in a dusty old barn that could be 60 to 90 years old. All right, let's go. All right, so these boxes are pretty darn interesting in of themselves. Very beautiful artwork on here. We have these three phoenix on top of the Yixing Oolong tea, W-O-L-L-U-N-G spelling. So being that these are from Hong Kong, this is a company from Hong Kong. My understanding is that the Yixing tea company started in the late 1800s in Hong Kong and was actually active all the way up till the 1990s. So this is a company in Hong Kong that was making tea for a very, very, very long time. It's kind of like drinking history, and I feel very, very lucky and privileged to be able to drink one of these today. Each box contains 5 ounces or about 150 grams of tea, and as far as I can tell, they are both full. I'm going to show you some of the pretty artwork. So we have some very beautiful birds, some bluebirds on the front there. Got our phoenixes on the top of the roses. I like this part here. This tea is of the best quality grown in the Wuyi mountain. So Wuyi is kind of like a Cantonese pronunciation of Wuyi, which is the mountain, of course, which we have rock tea, Yancha, comes from. And of course, it will make you much healthier when you drink it, according to these. And then the directions are even interesting too. The directions say 3/4 of an ounce of tea is to be mixed with 1/2 pint of boiling water and let the mixture stand for 1/4 of an hour before drinking. So certainly those directions are more for grandpa style drinking than Gong Fu drinking, but we're going to drink these Gong Fu today. I'm guessing it probably says something similar here on this side in Chinese, as again, I don't speak Chinese, I'm sorry to say. And then our back of the box here has Some beautiful butterflies and roses. Then over here, this one's missing the lid, but we have the tea tin inside with the beautiful red and gold decoration. Once again, those three phoenixes, or they might be eagles, three eagles on the top. And here we have Oolong tea with a beautiful pastoral scene of swans, same message here, and a beautiful country scene right there. So, like I said, these could be from as early as the 1930s, maybe 20s or 30s, but definitely at least from the 1950s or 60s, if not. So these are pretty rare to find, and I am stoked that we're going to drink some of this today. All right, so if you're into Chinese tea like I am, you know, part of that is not just about the tea, but it's also about the teaware. So how am I going to prepare this very old antique oolong today? Well, if I'm tasting a tea for the first time, I'll often use a porcelain gaiwan or a porcelain teapot so I can truly evaluate the tea. But I've had teas that are this old before and older. I've been very lucky like that, and I know that if this tea turns out to be any good, it's not always going to be about the flavors and aromas so much as it's going to be about the energy and the history of it. So I've opted for one of my favorite teapots. We have here a Julunju style Yixing teapot made from Zisha clay, purple sand clay. And this one's a bit of a mystery. So this one I bought, and half the experts are divided. Half the experts believe that this is an antique pot from late Qing dynasty. The other half of the people online think it's a reproduction. But guess what? I don't care. I like the teapot. It makes fantastic tea. The clay is amazing, really good tea. And big shout out to my buddy Nissan. If you see the metal staple repairs right there, we have two silver staples in the top. When I bought the teapot, it had a crack in it. And Nissan of Kenjit, Knjit, he is my buddy and an amazing kintsugi and metal staple teaware repair artisan. He does amazing work. I have several of his teapots. So we're going to use this teapot today. It's about 85 to 90 milliliters. So this is a nice small size for one person. And we're going to fill this up about halfway with tea for a nice strong brew. For Yancha, if it's newer Yancha, I might go like 80% of the way because I like it nice and strong. But for the older teas, we're going to dial it back just a little bit and go with about 50% full. Of course, the everything matters in Gong Fu tea, not just the teapot. So I've picked out one of my favorite type of cups. This is a Celadon cup from late Qing dynasty. You know, this is a very simple cup. This is not anything that would have been fancy back in the day, but just your regular run-of-the-mill blue-collar cup that, you know, your average person would have been using back then. But I think they are fantastic for aged teas. This is definitely one of my favorite types of cup to drink out of, so we're going to be using that today as well. Given the artwork on our tea canisters here, it's hard to judge which one of these might be older. They're both the same type of tea. They're both what they call Oolong, which is obviously oolong tea from the Wuyi or Wuyi Mountains. I'm sorry, Wuyi, which is the Wuyi Mountains. So I don't know which of these is older, if they're the same age. I don't know why they would have different artwork on the outside. For some reason, my gut instinct is telling me this one with the lid, if any of these is older, this might be the one. So let's go ahead and do a little unboxing, open this one up and see what's inside. So inside we have a tin that has its own lid. And to my surprise, when I opened this before, I found it still in fact has the original wrapping paper that would have gone around the tea inside. And we see the tea inside here, definitely Yancha for sure, definitely a Wuyi Oolong. And let's see. It's a good sign. It smells like tea. It does not smell like mold. It does not smell like wet basement. It does not smell like anything too horrible. So that's a very good sign. That's a good start. Let's go ahead and pour a little out here and see what we got inside. All right. So as one might expect, The leaves are definitely, we got a mixture of mostly leaf with a little bit of stem, certainly some stems in here. So this is not, you know, the world's highest grade tea back when this came out, probably, because we got some little stems in here. And as you'd expect, we got a lot of broken leaves. When tea is aged, of course, it starts to fall apart and starts to break down. However, still got some full leaves in here. That's pretty cool to see leaves that 60 to 90 years old and they haven't turned to dust yet. So yeah, what we're gonna do is, like I said, we're going to take some of this. I'm gonna take out as much paper as I can. There's a little paper in there, it's not gonna kill me, but let's remove a little of that paper if we can. And we're going to load up this tea scoop here. And I've drank enough tea before that I can pretty much guess how much tea I can put in without putting in the pot first. So I think that should fill up my little pot about halfway, maybe about right there. And we'll put the rest back in its home, in its old school tin. Luckily, there's no off smells about the tea. It doesn't smell moldy. It doesn't smell like it came out of a dank basement. So considering I pulled this out of a dusty chicken barn in Maine, I'm not joking, the antique shop was in an old chicken barn. It smells surprisingly clean. Of course, the true test will be when we put this into the warm teapot and really get a better sense of the smell from there. All right, our water is boiled. We are ready to go. So first step, of course, is to warm up our teapot. Especially with teapots like this that are repaired, we want to gently, slowly warm them up so that we don't make that crack worse. But we're getting our teapot nice and hot so that when we put our dry leaves in, it does a couple things. It helps us to smell the aroma better. This water here can help to warm up our fair cup and our teapot and other things. And then also, with the leaves going into a very hot teapot, it'll kind of help to refreshen them a little bit. It's not like a roast or anything like that, but you know, helps them to just be warmed up and refreshed a little bit. All right. Yeah, so we got about half full in our teapot. Let's put on the lid, give it a little shake. Here comes one of our moments of truth. What's this going to smell like when it's been warmed and heated up some? Okay, so we got old bookstore, old leather. Definitely still some sweetness, which is really nice. Okay, it's hard to describe when you smell a tea that's as old as this one, but what is making me happy is that it doesn't smell like it's off. It smells like tea. It smells like it has a lot of life. It smells like it has a lot of energy still. It doesn't smell like it's stale and that has gone bad and it's crap. I'm pretty excited, guys. This is wow, this is already better than I was kind of expecting. So let's warm up our cup. So for a tea like this, you know, we rinse just about every tea that we drink, but when you find a tea in an old antique barn, you want to rinse it. So we're going to give this a nice high, strong pour to kind of get those leaves churning around inside the teapot there. Going to use our lid and scrape off as much of that bubble stuff as we can and get that out of there. put our lid on, and the pot I'm using is a single hole, so we're just gonna kind of make sure that those leaves don't clog up on the first rinse. And there we have it. All right, so the next thing we want to do to evaluate is to hold it up and kind of check the clarity of the tea. First of all, it's obviously very, very dark, which you'd expect from a very old oolong. So a little bit cloudy on the rinse here, but overall it has a lot of life, a lot of brightness. Kind of shimmers. You know, people talk about like tea shimmering like a gemstone. You kind of have a little of that going on too. It's surprisingly clean. It really smells surprisingly clean, given the unknown storage conditions. Now let's give the tea itself a smell. You can tell an awful lot about a tea by the way the lid of the teapot smells after the rinse. This one's deep and complex and interesting, and amazingly, I would be able to identify it as a Wuyi tea, as a Yancha. You know, when it gets this old, sometimes they smell like pu'er tea because they're just so old, but this still smells like Oolong, which is amazing. Very complex, very interesting. Those slightly roasty notes are there still, which is unbelievable. And smelling the leaf itself. That's where you get more of that age. An old bookstore and saddle leather. Just smells like history. Smells like a museum. But also smells like old wood too. I'm excited. This is surpassing expectations already, so I'm pretty excited about this. Of course, the true proof will be in the first tasting, so I'm going to reboil my water and make sure that it's full blast, nice and hot for our first pour. All right, the water's reboiled now, so with the rinse, you know, I gave it a very strong, forceful pour. Now that the tea is woken up and after that first rinse is starting to wake up, now you want to treat it gently. Now, especially with an old tea like this, you want to be very, very gentle with the tea and let the tea, you know, now present itself on its own terms. So here's a little trick, single hole spout like this. If you get a little bit of clogging in the spout, instead of picking it up and blowing in it, which, you know, not always the nicest thing to do if you're serving tea to other people, you pour a little water into the teapot, into the spout of the teapot, and that is a way to clear the spout, and it's also a gentle way to have the tea introduced to the water so you don't overwhelm it. Take our rinse here and feed it back to our teapot so we get that good patina going on there. I'm gonna give a little to our ratties. I have my ratty tea pets. I used to have pet rats, so I'm very fond of rats. One of my favorite animals. A little bit clogged still. Let's help that out. Gonna let the tea cool down just a little. This gives me an excuse to smell again. Again, it's definitely Yancha. It's definitely, you smell the minerality, you smell the sweetness. You smell, maybe it's my imagination, but I feel like I smell a little bit of roast. Because this is a roasted tea, but I don't know, it's too old that you wouldn't think you would. right. Here is our moment of truth. Let's hope this tea tastes as good as it smells so far. Wow. Pardon me for not speaking. I'm seeing into the future a little bit. This is a pretty fantastic tea. This is a pretty special tea. You taste that age for sure. You taste those older notes, those aged notes, but still has a lot of life, still has a lot of strength to it. I don't know what to think. I don't know what to think of this tea. It's amazing. It's certainly old. It's certainly yummy. But it still has a lot of strength that I was not expecting. It has, I absolutely do taste the charcoal roasty notes of this tea. Which, you know, when teas are aged for a long time, you'd expect those to kind of die out a little bit. But with this tea, absolutely still taste a little bit of that charcoal roasting. You know, it's only the first infusion, but the other thing that's surprising is that the mouthfeel is very clean. You know, it's just goes down easy. You know, with really really good teas, one of the things that you learn about good teas is that you almost don't have to swallow them when you take a sip of those teas. You just kind of hold it in your mouth. The tea almost evaporates all by itself without you really using your throat muscles to swallow. It just kind of evaporates, and that's definitely going on here with this one. I was saving a little for the teapot, but I'm going to take some more here. Wow. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit of the loss. It certainly tastes old. It certainly tastes aged, but it still has so much power to it that it's kind of shocking. As I reboil my water here a little. I don't know. It's only the first infusion. Let's keep going. Let's see what happens. Teas like this probably won't open up until their third or fourth infusion. There's no doubt of the age of this tea. There's no faking when a tea is aged. This just has that certain old bookstore smell and that old leather-bound quality to it. But how old? I don't know. I think what's interesting to note is probably from spending the last 60 to 90 years inside the tin, has a little bit of a metallic flavor still to it. it'd be interesting to take the tea out of the tin and put it in a different container and see if that goes away. But behind that metallic taste, there's also that traditional Wuyi Yancha rock tea mineral quality to it. That minerality on the palate has that same feel of like almost like tasting sand or tasting rocks. That beautiful minerality. The mouthfeel on the tea is it's not very thick anymore. It's definitely light, but again, it's just so ethereal. It's just so light on the palate that it just starts to evaporate. And I'm already feeling a little tea drunk. This is only the second infusion. Feel it right here in the chest. Feel my shoulders loosening up. Feel my back loosening up. All those aches and pains are starting to melt away a little bit. It's only two cups in, but I'm pretty stoked. This tea is kind of exceeding expectations. Well, teas like this, you wish there was other people around to share them with, but that's life in pandemic times, sadly. So I'm glad that I waited until at least I'm recording this video, so that in a way I feel like I'm sharing this tea with the world, even though it's just me here in the room drinking the tea. Keeping these first infusions still pretty short, because I feel like a tea like this is going to have a lot to give. If you notice, when I pour out of the teapot into the fair cup, I'm kind of aiming at the side wall of the fair cup, and there's a reason for that. Basically, if you pour the tea in a way where it causes a lot of splashing and noise and bubbling, it's aerating the tea. So that can be a good thing. If you're drinking like a high mountain oolong or a green taekwondo or a phoenix oolong or something like that, where the tea's all about the aromas and the flavors, pouring from a little higher and causing a little aeration can be a good thing to bring out those aromas. But for a tea like this, an aged tea, I'm really focusing a lot more on the body and the feeling of the tea. So to increase the mouthfeel, to increase the body of the tea, I'm trying to cause as little aeration as possible when I pour it into the fair cup. Which he says, and then aerates the tea with his mouth as he takes a sip. I know, it's not lost on me. I understand the irony. Ooh. I wish you could feel this. I wish you guys could taste this at home. So funny, because with this tea, we have no idea what the history is. We know where it was made. We know it was made in Hong Kong. We know it was made decades ago, long before they used pesticides and herbicides and things like that. So it's you know, tea, of course, is clean and agrochemical free. But how did it come from Hong Kong to rural Maine? How long has it been here? Where was it stored? All those mysterious questions that we'll never know the answer to. At the same time, you know, tea is a conversation. You know, what I love about Gong Fu tea, what I love about drinking Chinese tea in this way is it's a conversation between you and the tea. As I drink this tea, I'm connecting with the farmers who made it decades and decades ago. I mean, you know, people that have probably lived, and some of them have since died and passed away. And many summers, many seasons ago, when this grew in the Wuyi Mountains and was harvested, you know, it's a conversation with the people that made the tea, that roasted the tea, that gave their skills and knowledge. You know, a lot of the tea roasting skills and knowledge is starting to go away, unfortunately. You know, there's a resurgence. There's a little bit of a renaissance going on with people who really care about tea, that are bringing those skills back. But back when this tea was made, that knowledge of how to treat the leaf, how to roast it, how to wither it, how to oxidize it, still on point. So it's a little tour through history, a little tour connecting with people that I've never known, that I've never met, but in a way, this is the gift that they put their passion into. And I feel so lucky to be able to experience it and to appreciate it. Whew. 4 cups in, and or 4 infusions in, and I feel like this tea is just hitting its stride. It's getting so much sweetness. You know, in with that, those kind of leathery, mushroomy, old booky notes. There's also some woodiness coming out. Reminds me of like old furniture. Then there's also just a little hint of fruitiness coming out, like just the slightest bit of dried cherry kind of in there, like just a little bit of like dried cherry fruit leather kind of thing going on. But teas like this, it's fun to try to pick out the aromas and the flavors and stuff, but man, aged teas like this are all about the energy. They're all about the bodily feel. They're all about the qi. Qi, that's a topic for another time. I spend a whole video on that. Some people believe in it, some people don't. Like Bob Marley said, he who feels it knows it. And right now, I am feeling it with this tea. So if you're also more new to Chinese tea, another thing you'll probably notice is that as I do more infusions of the same tea, the infusion times will get longer and longer. I started out with very quick infusions, just a few seconds, 10 seconds infusions maybe. And, you know, as I'm now on to the 6th infusion, I think, you know, now we're going to get up closer to 20, 30 seconds, whatever this is. When I started out drinking tea, as a lot of people do, I would actually use like a stopwatch and actually measure the time of my infusions and aim to, you know, keep increasing them in 5-second increments or whatever it is. And you learn pretty quickly that that's kind of like training wheels. You know, you learn pretty quickly that, you know, Gong Fu tea means with great skill. So that's one of those things that you rely on in the beginning, kind of like a crutch to time your infusions. But the more you get used to it, you just start to do it by feel. You just start to feel the tea, and it sounds super woo-woo, and I admit, but like you when you taste the tea, you're trying to decide what the tea wants from you as the brewer of that tea. You know, if the tea was a little bit light on one of the infusions, well, okay, now you know on my next infusion, I should either reboil the water to get it hotter, or I should do a longer infusion to bring out more of the tea. Vice versa, if the tea was too strong last time and a little bitter, you know, you might want to let the water cool down. You might want to pour the water from up higher in a very thin stream so the water cools down a little bit in that thin stream as it goes down. You might want to decrease the time of your infusions. But, you know, these are all the little tips and tricks that makes Gong Fu tea so fun. And these are all things that, you know, you'll work towards your whole life and never really master, but you're always trying to up your tea game. You're always trying to get better and better and better at brewing. So another important trick that I learned over the years is if you're kind of really trying to explore the aromas and flavors of the tea, a lot of it comes in the aftertaste. You know, there's upfront taste, but a lot of it comes after you've already swallowed the tea. And one of the things that can help to bring it out is to take your empty cup and kind of face mask it, right? Just kind of put it over your nose. And just slowly breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. And that as the tea dries inside the cup, as the oils of the tea dry inside the cup, you're basically having those oils come up through your nose through olfactory sense. And that helps you to taste the tea better. It helps you to smell the aroma better. So face masking your cup might look silly, but it's kind of a fun thing to do when you're drinking tea, kind of important. And if you're drinking tea with people that are serious about their Chinese tea, they won't judge you for it. So we are 6 infusions in, and I am already feeling pretty tea drunk. That's just another way to say I'm feeling kind of high. Again, this is one of those things that unless you've been drinking Chinese tea for years and years, you might not know what the hell I'm talking about. You know, what kind of wimp gets drunk off of tea, right? But you know, the truth is some of these teas, whether it's their age or their pedigree or coming from old trees or whatever it is, some of them just have this beautiful energy to them that makes you feel good. You know, when you drink these teas, it gives you a little buzz, gives you a little high. It's not like drinking alcohol. It's not like smoking marijuana or anything like that. It's its own thing. It's its own unique energy to it. And the best way I can describe it is, for me, and it's very personal to everybody, but for me, the best energy I can get from a tea that just makes me feel amazing is that same energy as if I'm out hiking in the wilderness and hiking through a beautiful old growth forest with trees that are hundreds of years old and moss and rocks, and getting that fresh air and getting that exercise. Sometimes you can get that same feeling from sitting down drinking a tea. So it's definitely a very kind of energizing, kind of happy feeling. Definitely a nice little buzz going on. So scientifically what's going on there, I don't know. That's up for you. You can do your own research if you want. I don't care. I just know it feels good. I just know I like it. I just know this is a good tea. All right, so we are now, I don't know, I've lost count. I think this is the 7th infusion coming up. That's another thing. I try not to count my infusions too much. The tea is starting to lose a little bit of its original strength. I mean, it's definitely changing a lot already. It's definitely getting softer and sweeter, but we're gonna give this a push. What that means is basically I'm freshly boiled the water. I poured the water from the kettle into the pot from nice and low so it doesn't lose a lot of temperature. Overfilled the pot and poured a lot on the outside to really boost the heat, and then poured some on the outside. And then on top of that, I'm even going to let it sit for kind of a little bit longer than I have been on my previous infusions. So what that is doing when you're giving it a push is it's just kind of extracting more of the chemicals in the tea, more of the, not chemicals in a bad way, but you know, more of the oils, more of the tannins, more of the everything that's inside the tea, and kind of just extracting more of it per infusion. This is something that you can do, you know, just whenever you feel like. If you feel like the tea is starting to just be a little bit on the weak side during any infusions, you can just kind of give it a little push to get it back going. And also helps to kind of see what this tea is really made out of. If this tea responds to this push by being strong and good and yummy, it means it has a lot of life left to give. But the interesting thing about these old teas is they kind of go on their own pace. You can push them a little bit. They're kind of like an elderly person. They don't take any guff. You know, you can push them a little bit, but they'll give it right back to you, and they'll tell you what's going on. And if they don't want to be pushed, they're not going to be pushed. So this tea is going to basically brew at its own pace and it's going to be its own thing and come out when it's ready. Yeah, as you can see on our 7th infusion, we started with the tea was basically probably not even half full. Not the teapot wasn't even half full. Probably closer to 1/3 or 2/5. And now the tea is kind of swelling up right below the lid, kind of filling up the whole pot. And let's take one of these out here. I always think it's amazing to, hold a leaf that's many years older than I am. Just to think that, this was growing on a tree somewhere in the mountains of China, in Wuyi, China, long before I was born. And here it is. Kind of amazing. All right, so that little push that I gave the tea definitely worked. It brought back some of the body of the tea, so it feels a little more full in the mouth, feels a little more weighty in the mouth. A little more flavor, a little more aroma coming out. What's interesting is one of the things I love about Gong Fu tea and doing all these infusions is what I always tell people, if I'm making tea for people who have never had Gong Fu tea before, who have never done tea in this way, is when you brew in a Gong Fu style like this, what you're really doing, to me, I think, is it's like reading a whole entire novel chapter by chapter, where each infusion of the tea is a different chapter, and you're learning more about the storyline, you're learning more about the characters. Each infusion reveals different aspects of that tea. Whereas when you drink tea in a Western style or grandpa style, it's almost like you're getting the cliff notes. You're just getting a very brief overview of what that tea is about, but all at once. And it's not as rich, it's not as powerful, it's not as impactful. But when you drink tea infusion by infusion, each infusion reveals something different about that tea, a different aspect, a different flavor, a different aroma. And one of the things I really love about aged teas and roasted teas is each infusion brings you closer and closer to the original essence of that tea. All tea comes from the same plant. All tea comes from Camellia sinensis. Now, there are varietals. There's Camellia sinensis, there's Camellia sinensis assamica, and different varietals, but basically it's all the same general plant. And whether it's roasted or oxidized or aged or whatever it is, when you drink those teas, they all, infusion by infusion, they all start to return to their original nature. And even when you're drinking a tea that's 60 to 90 years old, like this one is, what started out as a tea with a lot of mineral quality and a lot of roast and a lot of age bookstore notes to it, now I'm starting to get a little bit more floral. Sorry, those are my dogs. Ranger, come. Hi, Carly. It's my mom's dog, Carly. She'll be making appearances throughout videos, I'm sure. When you're experiencing this tea infusion by infusion, this one starting to get back to its more floral nature of when it was a younger plant, when it was a younger leaf that came off that tree. It has more greener, more floral notes starting to come out. So in a way, it's almost like the tea is getting younger as you drink it, which I think is super cool. All right. Well, guys, I'm about 13, 14 infusions in, and this tea is showing no signs of quitting anytime soon. However, the light is starting to go down outside. My dogs are starting to go on a walk. So I'm going to stop here. I'll tell you at the end how many infusions I go through, but I'll be drinking this tea for a couple days probably. But thank you so much for joining me on my very first YouTube video on this new tea channel. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't expect a lot of these. Don't expect a lot of tea tasting videos like this one. However, when you find antique tea that is, 60 to 90 years old, it's worth sharing. It's worth documenting. So, thank you for joining me today to drink this amazing tea. And I hope you got something out of the video and a lot more fun stuff to come. So thank you so much for tuning in, and please subscribe. Please give some comments. Tell me what you want to see in future videos. Tell me what you want to learn about in the world of Chinese tea, and we'll see what we can do. Thank you so much, guys. Take care. Have a good day. Oh, and Happy New Year. Happy Chinese New Year. Bye-bye.